Take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Superintendent Connor, if you'd like to present your report, please.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board. Thank you for a wonderful workshop today where we've been able to really highlight some of the great things that we're doing in terms of our literacy and reading plan, as well as the updates from the student progression plan, and as well as our financial and budget updates. Team did a great job, and looking forward to the new school year as we move forward. As we move into the superintendent's report, I want to highlight a few things on our consent agenda as normal. Item number 51 is the approval agreement between the Teen Court of Sarasota County and the school board. We have been in partnership with Teen Court since 1988, and this is a wonderful partnership for students who have had some problems maybe with discipline in schools, maybe even criminal activity. And the partnership with Teen Court has allowed us to really help students get a second chance and to rehabilitate and get to a point where they can be successful. And the outcomes of our partnership with Teen Court over these many, many years is that 92% of our students who participate in Teen Court do not end up reoffending. And so I just want to highlight this agreement. We're continuing our partnership as we have over these last 30 some odd years. And so thank you to all of those who are in Teen Court. As well, tonight we'll be presenting our K-12 Student Code of Conduct for official approval. If you've seen our recent workshops on the development of that, you'll know that a lot of work has gone on into really distinguishing between elementary and our secondary students. So we have two codes of conducts that separate those two groups out. A lot of input from our board, from our parents and community, as well as specific stakeholder groups that have come to a point that really prepares and helps our school administrators and teachers provide consistency around how we deal with student behavior. I think that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've received as I've transitioned early in the year and talking to our staff around that application of how we handle student behavior and discipline and what those consequences look like and what those restorative practices look like as well. And so I'm proud to present this tonight as we move into the 24-25 school year. So great highlight here that I want to recognize. We actually have someone in the audience that I want to recognize here, but as you may know, June 24th through the 28th is National Boys and Girls Club Week. So we're proud to recognize, and I'm honored to recognize and celebrate this week that's taking place on June 24th through the 28th. It is a week dedicated to honoring the contributions of the Boys and Girls Club to our community, specifically the partnership we have here in Sarasota County Schools with the Boys and Girls Club and the impact that they have on the lives of our youth. The Boys and Girls Club of Sarasota and DeSoto counties have been partners in fostering the development of our young people. Their efforts align perfectly with the mission that we have to ensure that every student reaches their full potential. So I want to take a moment to first recognize Mr. Bill Sadlow, the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you for being here. I asked him if he wanted to say a few words. He said, no, I can take care of it. I want to take a few moments just to show you some of the impact of the Boys and Girls Club right here in Sarasota County. On-time grade advancement, an impressive 98% of the club members achieve on-time grade advancement, showcasing their commitment to academic success. I've had an opportunity with our team to go out to the site over off Fruitville Road and seeing the amazing work that you do with our students and the continuation beyond, the traditional school day into the after-school programming there. and we just thank you for your partnership there. It's really an extension of what we do in our schools, and using a lot of, there's a lot of alignment with the curriculum and the things that we do with some of the programming there. As well as during the summer program, 100% of the club members either maintain or improve their academic performance, so reflecting their effectiveness in helping us achieve our mission of academic excellence. In our reading summer program, club members aged 6 through 12 read a total of 11,643 books, demonstrating a love for reading and learning, and the community support, which 72% of club members reported that they could count on their fellow members, highlighting that strong sense of community and mutual support that is provided within the club. A couple more highlights in terms of teen-specific achievements. Service hours, teen club members contributed 3,646 service hours, providing a net benefit of over $115,000 to our community. Over 71 club teams have served as full voting members on local boards of directors. Even right here, they have participated in many of our events in the STAR Leadership Program and getting to see how our particular board operates. In terms of advocacy, 9 club teams have traveled to Washington, D.C. for the National Youth Advocacy Days, representing their peers on the national stage. In terms of state engagement, 16 club teams have participated in the Florida Page and Messenger program, or the Florida Senate Page program in Tallahassee, engaging in those civic activities. And in terms of educational advocacy, 72 teams from several local high schools have participated in the Superintendent's Student Advisory Council annual forum, voicing their concerns and proposing solutions to enhance their educational experience. I had a great time getting to interact with them as we did that event this year, and really are going to look forward to implementing some of the great ideas. So in conclusion, we recognize and acknowledge the significant contributions of the Boys and Girls Club. Their dedication to youth development is evident in the remarkable achievements that we've highlighted today. And as we continue to support and recognize the invaluable role of youth development programs, I encourage everyone to participate in the upcoming events during this upcoming Boys and Girls Club Week. These events provide an excellent opportunity for all of us to engage further in supporting our youth. Again, thank you, and join me in celebrating National Boys and Girls Club Week. Thank you, Mr. Sadlow, for being here today. Let's continue our great work together empowering young people. Thank you. A couple of announcements. We want to congratulate Oak Park's music teacher Daniel Billman for being named a quarterfinalist for the 2025 Grammy Music Education Award. He joins just over 200 other educators in the quarterfinals. There were over 2,400 nominees chosen from 202 cities. Semifinals will be announced later this year, and the finalists will be celebrated during Grammy Week in February of 2025. Congratulations to Daniel Billman at Oak Park. Two students from Sarasota County have become national medalists for the 2024 Scholastics Art Award. Delcy Calderon Vasquez from Booker High School and Haley Hammock from Northport High School have received medals. Let's give them a congratulations. And we've had a few district leadership changes as we're moving through the summer. This is the time as we prepare to launch 2024-25 school year. I want to excitedly announce our new Chief of Police, Mr. Jacob Ruiz. Mr. Jacob Ruiz is coming from us from the Palm Beach area. He has also worked in the SRO program in Osceola County, and we're very fortunate to have him come on board. At the end of July, he'll be making his way officially. Also, we have a new Chief Human Capital Officer, Ms. Ashley Ramadka, coming from us from Valdosta, Georgia. She's currently working in the healthcare field, but has school district experience in Illinois, and we're looking forward to her starting in July 8th. We are happy to see Dr. Heather Wasserman moving up from director to executive director of ESE. So congratulations, and she has really kind of just held it down while we've gone through the transition in the ESE department through this audit that we had this year, working through the recommendations, working closely with Ms. O'Day, and I'm proud to see her serving in this role. Look forward to the impact that she'll continue to have. terms of some principal changes, looking forward to seeing Miss Jamie Lowitz, who is currently the principal at Oak Park School, who is moving to Atwater Elementary School. Looking forward to that. Congratulations to her. Michelle Giddens is currently the AP at Lakeview Elementary, and she will now serve as the principal of Lakeview Elementary. Miss, and I always say her name wrong, Maria, Mary always comes to mind, Maria Anicelli, who is currently an AP at Gosio, but has served also as an AP at Emma E. Booker, will now be the new principal of Emma E. Booker Elementary School. And Jessica Fusey, who is currently serving as the AP at Riverview High School, will be announced today as the new principal of Laurel Nokomis School. So congratulations to all of these changes. Just a reminder, as we're coming up on the 4th of July, we will be closed for the entire week of the 4th. And as we close out this report, I want to share a video that we actually shared during our workshop today around the tremendous work. As we launch into the summer, things don't slow down, they speed up. And so we had a very effective institute. We called it our Literacy for All Institute. If you want to learn more about where we are in terms of our literacy and where we're headed, I encourage you to go back and watch our workshop today, but I'll give you a little bit of a glimpse of some of the great work that is launched already with our teachers and our administrators over the summer.
We are here today for our two-day Literacy for All Summer Institute, where we are pulling K through 12 literacy coaches, literacy interventionists, our principals and assistant principals, and our ESC program specialists for 2 days of professional learning and deep diving into our Literacy for All support plan.
So Literacy for All is exactly what it sounds. It is literacy for all students.
So the goal for our literacy coaches and our literacy interventionists after leaving our two-day institute is to set them up with a set of tools and strategies to be able to lead and support teachers and students in the classroom.
We're learning about the process of how coaches interact with staff and why it's important that they build a relationship and that the teachers understand why they're there. That they're there to support, to offer suggestions, and it's really a horizontal relationship between the coach and the teacher. Our goal at the end of the day is to increase student achievement and to provide access to literacy for all of our students. However, that starts with our frontline, which is our staff. And as an administrator, I feel like it's really important to be here learning the same content that they are and knowing what is the expectation moving into next school year and moving forward as a district, so that when I'm providing support, I know the language that they are speaking and I know the goals that they are trying to attain.
Our Literacy for All initiative is about creating a team of skilled, trained professionals in the classroom, outside the classroom, and at the leadership levels to work together to support one another in this initiative, because it takes a village to achieve these goals and continue to move students to meet their fullest potential.
I really do love that this is an initiative that's going K through 12, because students need literacy, we need literacy way beyond when we stop, going to English class. And so for me, being able to promote that love of literacy within our staff, within our students, to make everyone love reading and literature and vocabulary just a little bit more, might make an impact beyond anything I've ever seen.
I want to just say hats off to the team who have made that possible. It's really a great launch into the 24-25 school year. We also had our Summer Leadership Institute that we participated in 3 days last week as an extension to that. So lots going on over the summer. Looking forward to celebrating the accomplishments of the past year as some of the state data starts to come out officially over the next few weeks, and looking forward to a fabulous school year. Thank you, and Madam Chair, that is it.
Thank you, Superintendent Connor. A shout out to our students and teachers and principals and the literacy team. The presentation today was phenomenal. The work is phenomenal. The raw scores coming out couldn't be more exciting, and I couldn't be more proud. And the work that's being done in the classroom, we had a great time reviewing today, and I thank you all for that. Mr. Sadlow, thank you for being here in person. We thank you for your service to our students and the community. And a shout out to Teen Court. I know that several of us have worked directly with Teen Court. I know that Mr. Enos, as the SRO leader, worked with them, and Ms. Marinelli, and they do absolutely fabulous work in setting our students up for success. So we'll be moving on to the hearing of citizens. We have 27 cards filled out, and we'd like to welcome you to this segment of our meeting. The forum allows the community to engage with the school board on matters concerning our education system. All speakers should have submitted a completed comment card before this segment. Speakers will be called in the order received. Each speaker will state their full name and shall confine their remarks to the business of the school board. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. A timer will signal when 1 minute remains. Please conclude promptly when the timer ends. Please address your comments to the board, not to the audience. We expect all remarks to be delivered in a manner consistent with school board policy. Abusive language, personal attacks, or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. Please direct any personal grievances or personal issues in writing to the school board office. Audience members are requested to listen quietly and respectfully. Outbursts, applause, or other interruptions that disrupt the meeting are not acceptable. Any person that interferes with the expeditious or orderly process of this meeting after first being warned that such continued interference will result in removal will be removed. There are speakers in the room behind us that allow board members to hear public comments when one steps away from the dais. When your name is called, please approach the podium. If you choose to pass, you will forfeit your time to address the board. As a reminder, a recording cannot be played during your 3 minutes of public comment. We appreciate your cooperation. And Mr. Enos, can you please call the first speaker?
First up will be Barbara Vaughn, and then Lieutenant Colonel Duff Smiley.
Welcome, Mrs. Vaughn.
Thank you. I am Barbara Vaughn, nearly 20-year resident of Sarasota County. And I want to do something, start a little differently today. I want to thank Superintendent Connor and all of the board. You all have just done a phenomenal job this past year, and it's been against terrible odds. We've been letting the tail wag the dog here, and it needs to stop. We might not be able to influence much the mess going on at the national level, but we can sure clean things up here. I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of being part of a very large majority and constantly being harangued, harassed, and shouted down by a very small minority. People who count themselves as gay or homosexual make up about 7% of our population nationwide. If we were really a democracy and not a constitutional republic, they wouldn't have much of a voice. How about here in Sarasota County? How about our own school system? Maybe 2% more or less? But they have lots of people who have taken them on and used them to promote their own issues or maybe just their own egos. People such as Jason Blank and Anthony Pedicini, who don't even live here. They're both in Tampa. And the PAC called the School Sanity Project, being funded by the national LGBTQ group called Agenda. They're not from Sarasota, so you probably haven't heard of them. They're out of Philadelphia. But they've decided to bring their culture war to Sarasota. with the help of some of our very own Save Our School bunch who've graduated from screaming about requiring masks on little kids in school to now tearfully complaining about gay students being harassed or bullied, or wanting transgender boys to compete in girls' sports and use their locker room. Lisa Schur and her small but faithful band of mimickers are now joined by the local self-appointed leader of SEE, the Social Equity and Education Initiative, Harvard dropout Xander Moritz, who now fills...
Point of order.
There's a microphone issue up here. Mrs. Vaughn, if you could please not address members of the community and address the board, we'd certainly appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm addressing the board about some of the people who appear before you. He fills his time training high school students to join in demonstrations and creating chaos at school board meetings. Yes, of course, minorities deserve to be protected and respected and accepted, but they shouldn't be running our school system. They have Tom Edwards to represent them on our school board, and that gives them a 20% voice. Isn't 20% 1 of 5? But that isn't enough.
It won't go off and then it won't go on when I want it, like it is now, but.
If you're still having issues with it, you can bring over a wireless mic for it. You want me to do that now?
Mrs. Vaughn, thank you. I
Madam Chair,
apologize, I'm having speaker issues.
Madam Chair, can we remind the audience about decorum? Interruptions are.
I understand that you want to have input. If you continue to shout out, the audience will be emptied and you will have an opportunity to come in and address us individually. We're going to have decorum, please.
Lieutenant Colonel Duff Smiley, and then Richard Stammer.
Welcome.
My daughter gave me a wooden plaque that reads, "No man is completely worthless. He can always serve as a horrible example." So I was a member of GM's Diversity Council, and the diversity at GM, as opposed to diversity here, led to unity at the end of the day. I'd like to address a previous discussion that our board does not represent our community. In Sarasota County, there are 150,000 Republicans, 90,000 Democrats, and 90,000 independents. If every registered voter came out to vote and the independents split 50-50, the conservatives would win by about a 60% to 40% margin. Therefore, many of the claims against the conservative board members not constituting that of the community are not true. The board does represent about 60% of the community. Going down the line here, Robin Marinelli was a teacher for 30 years, mental health counselor, counseling administrator, and on the superintendent staff. Tim Enos served as a cop, including police chief for the schools and member of the superintendent staff. Karen Rose is probably the most qualified board member in the history of the board, having spent 30 years as a teacher principal on the superintendent staff and 4 years as a board member. Bridget has over 8 years on the board, nationally recognized as a conservative educator, and has a nationwide network of educators. She has shown amazing resilience in the face of extreme hate in doing what she was elected to do. All in all, the conservative board members bring about 100 years of education and safety experience to this board. They are doing an excellent job under extremely difficult circumstances. Saving the worst for last is Mr. Edwards. His experience is less than, as far as I know, less than 4 years on the board here. As far as I know it, he has no known experience as a teacher or school administrator. His chief qualifications are that he is gay and does an outstanding job representing his rainbow group to the detriment of all others. His experience is in the liquor business. He is the most divisive, radical board member in the history of the board. He has a history of disruptive and disrespectful language toward the women on the board, and despite of his proclamation of having support for the flag, he in no way has demonstrated it by calling out his supporters who sit for the flag, one of them today, or instituting any kind of program which would elevate the American flag above the rainbow flag. He does not even wear an American flag lapel pin. Mr. Edwards is a detriment to the success of our students. He offers victimhood and a limited hope to succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm giving the audience a formal warning. We're going to have decorum in the audience. You will have your opportunity to speak if you filled out a card, and we welcome you to do so. But if you shout out again, we'll take an intermission. This is a formal warning, and you can come in when your name is called. Thank you. Mr. Enos, please.
Richard Stammer, and then Luis Machinist.
Good afternoon. I'm Richard Stammer. I'm a 22-year resident of Sarasota and a retired child welfare professional. And I'm glad to be here. I've been away since April the 20th. And despite some of the things I've just heard, I'm still glad to be here because my nephew's getting married on Saturday, and I'm going to be in Maryland to see it. So nothing's going to chill how I feel. But in the spirit of every student every day, I first want to acknowledge the excellent work that Superintendent Connor has done. I've said that before, many others have, and I'll continue to say it. He has accomplished so much in such a short period of time, and I certainly encourage the board to grant and enter into a 5-year contract with Superintendent Connor so that we can bring some stability to the superintendent position, and so he can continue to work with the board and do and all of our teachers and students and do the excellent work that he has been. So thank you, sir. I also wanted to call on the board's chairperson, Karen Rose, to please attend the July 11th Tiger Bay board luncheon. We think it's important for all candidates to be there and to provide the public a description of their goals for the school district. If you've already said you're going to be there, Ms. Rose, that's terrific. I have just heard that that has not been confirmed, and I intend to go to that luncheon, and I would certainly like to see you there as well. In addition, the only other thing I'd like to mention is I really would like to see the board prioritize expanding the no-cost preschool programs to support families and ensure long-term student success. I was very discouraged to hear about the County Commission's recent vote to eliminate funds for the Early Learning Coalition School Readiness Program. I mean, I worked with children my entire professional life in child welfare. I know and I work with many teachers, and I know the importance of early childhood education, and our children in this demanding world need all the help that they can get. And in addition, their families have to pay so much now. I understand that the pre-K program requires families of 4 who make over $50,000 per year to pay the full fee. $50,000. A family of 4 needs $100,000 annually to cover expenses, And making additional preschool charges really makes it a significant burden. So I encourage you, for that and many other reasons I'm sure others will speak of, to prioritize expanding the no-cost preschool programs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And may I ask for a replacement mic? Mine is malfunctioning.
Louise Machinist, and then Sonia Howman.
Hi, everybody. I'm Louise Machinist, spelled like machinist. I'm here because I'm compelled to comment on and partially object to Chairperson Rose's June 10th op-ed in the Sarasota Herald Tribune. First, it was wonderful to read that our third grade public student reading scores have increased by 14%. That's fabulous. And also, to a lesser extent, increases among our charter students. So far, so good. But some important things were left out of that piece, and that's the part I'm objecting to. The Herald Tribune should have dedicated an entire page to Mrs. Rose so that the record could be complete and have the backstory. As politicians slant facts to fit their narratives, though, much was omitted from that story. And one of the things that was left out, number one, it would be a gracious shout out to Tom Edwards for being one of the driving leadership forces behind the new career training programs that were mentioned in the piece. Thank you, Tom, and others. Number two, what's left out is the true story of this board's swing to right-wing political extremism. The piece starts out vaguely, and I'm quoting, quote, "In November 22, I made a formal motion to lead the Sarasota County School District in a different path, which was firing Dr. Asplin. Why? Quote, I was taken by surprise with a new force to be reckoned with in 2017. That variable quickly permeated our school system. It posed the greatest threat to student achievement to date, politics in our schools and in our boardroom." Well, was this nefarious political force maybe the equity committee that she didn't like, or some social emotional curriculum? Did that force really lead to decreased reading scores, not the lost months during the COVID shutdown? By the way, a point, at that time, most of our current third graders were in kindergarten or preschool at that time, so we need to keep that in mind. But what else was left out? Everything that the other Karen Rose, the politician, says outside this boardroom. These are excerpts, quotes, from the other Karen's speech at the Unmasked Florida event at the Hollow 2A in December 21. They lit the political fire that culminated in firing Dr. Asplin at the same time that he was already passionately warning the board to get politics out of the board business. So, rallying the people at the Proud Boys-sponsored event, Mrs. Rose said, quote, "I'm giving you permission to do what you're doing," which was disrupting school board meetings with outbursts and noisemakers. To go out and rally people, put together the school board that we believe in, you and I. In other words, the school board that would do the politician Ron DeSantis' bidding. Quote, "School board members don't decide where money goes. It should include the community." But apparently, the community is not consulted when it comes to superintendent firings, unnecessary redistricting, and risking Title IX funding. But I agree with...
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Sonia Howman, and then Steve Russell.
Welcome.
Thank you, School Board, for allowing me to speak. I'm Sonia Howman, MD, Christian Mom of 4, retired critical care doctor. I think it's time that we address the barely concealed goals of some of the board members to breed basic mistrust of our public schools. It began with that manufactured outrage over masking, book removal, and the outrageous claim that public school teachers were somehow indoctrinating students to liberalism and the LGBT lifestyle. The clear message was, and is, don't trust your precious child to the public school system. Oddly, Hillsdale, this tiny little Christian school in Michigan, has a big part in sowing that mistrust, and coincidentally, the takeover of New College of Florida. Chris Rufo, our governor's fanboy, actually said, to get universal school choice, you must operate from a premise of universal public school mistrust. Chris Rufo is a DeSantis appointee of New College and is a frequent speaker at, you'll never guess, Hillsdale College. The president of Hillsdale College, Larry Arnn, states, education destroys generations of people. It's like the plague. Education, he says, He also denies the expertise of education professionals, says that teachers are trained in the dumbest parts of the dumbest colleges. And, paraphrase, teaching, anyone can do it. You don't need a degree. Hillsdale launched a number of charter schools in Florida, and weirdly, this effort is related to obliterating the line between church and state. But Hillsdale was also involved in reviewing the Florida civic standards. The Florida teachers are paid a $3,000 stipend to attend a 3-day training session, which, according to public record requests and participant recall, we learned that these sessions include a lot of denial of the separation between church and state by cherry-picking quotes from George Washington. However, we have so many quotes about the separation of church and state. It also says that the Ten Commandments underlie all of our government. One session was actually led by Matthew Spalding, Hillsdale, Washington professor. He's also a trustee at New College, go figure, and the director of the 1776 Commission, which was reviled by the American Historical Society as being fraught with falsehoods and omissions. So, the Washington Post recently told us that all Florida programs combine to make every student eligible for a voucher. 82% of those go to religious schools. And we lead the nation with over 400,000 students participating and over $3 billion of Florida taxpayers' money. $3 billion. If you believe in the U.S. Constitution, this should anger you. The line separating public education and religion is not only being tortured, blurred, it's being decimated. Some accusations coming from this board seem to be confessions. Indoctrination, predatory behavior. I think it's time for a change here. Don't you?
Thank you.
Steve Russell, and then Alessandra Smith.
Welcome.
My name's Steve Russell. Thank you for letting me speak. I just want to address a statement that Karen Rose made at the end of a meeting 2 meetings ago, alluding to that many members of the audience that spoke were political activists. I'm here, and most of the people I've met, either because we're part of a marginalized community or we have friends and loved ones that are part of a marginalized community. I feel there was a target on their back, and I fear every day, the first thought in the morning when I get up is for my son's safety. Many times throughout the day I'm thinking about his safety. The last thought before I go to bed is about his safety because of this target on his back. Because of rhetoric, because of members on this staff, on this board, that target's even bigger. I literally fear for their lives. That's why we're here. Do you understand that? You should hope and pray that you don't have to feel that feeling for your loved ones and your friends. It's really a miserable feeling. People of the LGBT community have to have advocates advocate for themselves because there's a target on them. They wouldn't have to be here talking to you guys. They wouldn't have to be out there trying to just have basic freedoms because of who they are. But it's because of the target put on their back by ignorant, hateful people or people looking for political and personal gain that they have to advocate for themselves. And we have to be here talking to you people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Alessandra Smith, and then Jacob Gardner.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Alessandra Smith, and I am a current student at Riverview High School and have been a part of the Sarasota school system my entire life. In the past year, the school board, led by Karen Rose, has made monumental financial decisions that have cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars in unnecessary spending. Rose leads this effort in financial irresponsibility. She has, 1, made the motion to fire Superintendent Asplin after he earned 2 years as a highly effective administrator on his annual evaluations, which cost the district upwards of $500,000. 2, she has refused to oppose House Bill 1, which has funneled over $10 million out of the district in its first year and is on track to double that amount in the next year to come. 3, she has made the motion for pointless redistricting, which costs the district upwards of $50,000. She voted for 2 for-profit charter schools, which will cost the district up to $25 million per year. And 4, Rose has voted to support the Vermillion proposal, which would have funneled off at least tens of thousands of dollars. Thankfully, the community challenged the board and the Vermillion proposal failed. Karen Rose's financial irresponsibility is of high concern to this community. As a student going through your public schools, I urge you to use those thousands of dollars to be better spent on things that benefit the students rather than your political agenda, such as increasing teacher salary, increasing the accessibility of basic school supplies, providing free lunches, and paid early childhood education programs. Members of the school board, please use public dollars for public schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacob Gardner, and then Kayak Sanchez.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Gardner, and I'm currently a rising senior at Sarasota High School. I have lived in Sarasota for my entire life and have therefore garnered the majority of my education from local schools and institutions. Now, if you know me, I've been a reader since day one. In preschool, I was using words too large for my mouth and talking the ears off of anybody who would listen. Although I was blessed with many incredible instructors, unfortunately, my preschool experience did not match my passion for education at the time. I was not provided with books or materials matching my growing knowledge. Knowledge most critically fostered in the first 5 years of my brain development, and consequentially, my academic outcome was not entirely positive as I had hoped it would be, and my parents had hoped it would be. This is still an ongoing issue for many, but luckily studies show that financial investment in early childhood education is a clear path to student success. Further, inadequate state funding and recent cuts by the County Commission have only amplified this issue to a greater extent. School Board, it is critical that you place priority on the expansion of no-cost, affordable preschool programs to lessen the burden on families and ensure students' success for the long term. Early education is the most effective method of ensuring high literacy rates and positive outcomes. The district should be expanding early childhood programs and exposing students to fair education. Public dollars are for public schools, and it is vital that this funding is used for the greater good of early childhood education at its core. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kayak Sanchez, and then Alex Doherty.
Hello. Hello, board chair. Hello, school board members. Hello, superintendent. Happy Pride Month. My name is Kayak Sanchez. I have spoken in front of you before, and today I would like to expand on what I've spoken on in the past. I was a trans student in Collier County. I now live in Charlotte County, just below Sarasota County. I just graduated. Woohoo. But I feel like I am still the monster under your bed. The thing you appear to be the most afraid of. What with you rejecting the Title IX protections that are now instated into federal law. What's the point? Restricting our bathroom usage? Preventing us from playing sports with other kids? Why do you fear children like me so much? Students should be before politics. We need to pee like everyone else. Students are before politics. We want to play like every other kid. Students before politics, we live and love like every other person. Please stop wasting your tax dollars on culture wars and hurting trans kids. Maybe put it towards public schools' efficacy, or towards helping families that have pre-K age children afford pre-K in the aftermath of the Commissioner's Office voting to eliminate funding towards early childhood education. Thank you, School Board. I hope you'll take my words, my existence, and rethink where your funding goes and what your stances are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex Doherty, and then Anya Dennison.
Hello, my name is Alex, and I am I'm a student at Suncoast Polytechnical High School. And I'm here again to discuss the lack of support for early childhood education. Last week, the County Commission voted 4-1 to eliminate subsidies that would support the financial needs of families with little kids. A family of 4 needs about $100,000 per year to totally support their expenses. Now, any family of 4 who makes over $55,000 needs to pay the full amount for pre-K. Last year, I learned about the importance of early childhood education in my basic psychology class. Basic psychology class. Over 70% of brain development happens within the first 5 years of life. Given the importance of this issue, I sincerely hope that the school board can find it within their $1.6 billion budget to support the needs of students to support the needs of students rather than donating to for-profit charter and private schools that don't support the needs of their students.
Thank you.
Anya Dennison, then Madison Ponder.
Hi everyone, I'm Anya, a graduate of Sarasota Schools. Happy Pride. The best, most impactful teacher I have ever had was one that I had for 3 school years between 8th grade to my senior year. The consistency his teaching gave me at school, down to the really little things like his classroom always having armchairs in it, gave me the space and comfort to learn, grow, and develop my thoughts about the world around me. The only thing that he really changed throughout those 5 years was the amount of history-related classroom decor he had. Because of the consistency I grew, and just as I was graduating and leaving my school in 2022, as if a symbol for the direction that our district was taking, his colorful, decades-decorated classroom was torn down with construction equipment and moved to a sanitized, sterile building. I later learned that our teachers were reliant on annual contracts to preserve their jobs, and despite that fact, some stayed for decades. They shouldn't have to bet on their livelihoods every single year in order to support their students. Our new superintendent shouldn't either. We should afford Superintendent Connor the privilege of stability that even our teachers don't have. If we don't, what does that say about our values and goals? Do we just tear down and sanitize, or can we invest and build on our progress in history? Please improve Superintendent Connor's 5-year contract so that our community, our teachers, and our students can know that their district's leadership is deeply rooted and invested in its long-term success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madison Ponder, and then Julie Forstier.
My name is Madison. I'm a former Pineview student. I wanted to begin my speech today with a quote that I believe is reflective of Florida. The quote is by Sarah Orlean from her book, The Orchid Thief. It goes, "The world is so huge that people are always getting lost in it." And that sentiment certainly rings true here in Florida, where we are constantly losing our students, whether it be because they cannot afford to continue or because they don't feel safe to do so. We are losing our students because of the actions of this school board, because they have done things like invalidate their students' identities and make early education programs inaccessible. Since my graduation, I have learned that this is not the case everywhere and that this must change. I've had the privilege of studying abroad, and my time there has taught me that the importance of accessibility in education. It has taught me that education must be comprehensive of different experiences and opinions, and that it must be considerate of the needs of all students, all things that are lacking here in Florida education. However, it has also taught me that the world has bigger problems than boys kissing other boys and what bathroom you use. Most of all, it has taught me that the world is small and that people possess big minds and big hearts. This is very different from the narrative pushed here in Florida, where the world is big and it is filled with people with small minds and small hearts, where the world is large enough that we can paraphrase history, where the people are so small-minded that our school board members are supposed civil servants for the schools. Do not give those students who they claim to care about the common courtesy of looking us in our eyes and listening to our voices when we are here demanding you to do so. Where they are so small-minded they don't realize that they are the butt of the world's joke. Where they are so small-minded that they care enough about immigration status that they are willing to break the law to track it. A place where people have such small hearts that early education subsidies are cut so money can be siphoned into private and charter schools. Where people have so much hate and contempt that they will let their students get lost and never attempt to find them. It is time for the school board to honor its own words and meet the needs of every student every day. Not just the students that fit within their narrow view of acceptable, and not just on the days where it is advantageous for them to do so. It is time for things to change, and it is time for it to happen now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Forstier, and then Jules Rainey.
Hi, Board. I am here today as a mother who has real concerns about the recent cuts by the County Commission to funding for the Early Learning Coalition School Readiness Program. At the last school board meeting, many people addressed a concern for the way the school district was going to start charging families for the extended day pre-K program. Given the recent cuts to the Early Learning Coalition's funding, this concern is even more real. As a mother of 2 children aged 5 and 3, as well as being a stepmother and guardian to 2 teenage girls, I understand what kind of financial support it takes to raise a family in Sarasota County. I couldn't personally imagine having to support a family of 4 on $55,000 a year. That is the cutoff for families to qualify for any assistance for any financial assistance for full day pre-K. I certainly couldn't imagine supporting a family of 4 for $38,000, which is the cutoff for receiving free pre-K. That averages out to $9,500 a year per person. Could anyone on this board imagine supporting yourselves and your family for under $10,000 per person per year? I highly doubt it. As more and more families aren't going to have access to previously available funding sources for pre-K and early childhood care, it will be even more important than ever that the school district steps in and supports that need. Public dollars are for public schools, and my hope is that this board will use our tax dollars to support the families that need it most in our community. Please stop using our money for your politics and start putting our dollars towards supporting the real needs of our community. Ms. Rose, I also heard during the workshop you said that it was false that you were attending the Sarasota County Commission meeting regarding the impacts of illegal immigration on the school district on Friday. Thank you for acknowledging the divisive nature of this topic and that you will not be attending. I expect not to see you there on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jules Rainey, and then August Ray.
Good afternoon, Board. My teeth exploded. This is how a 17-year-old Minnesota high school junior named Cobalt Sovereign described her experience when she was attacked after trying to use the school bathroom 2 weeks ago. You see, Cobalt Sovereign is a transgender girl who was born biologically male. In an effort to make her fellow girls feel more comfortable, Cobalt used the boys' restroom. When she came out of the restroom, Cobalt was assaulted by 3 boys, called transphobic slurs, and then sucker punched, leaving her with missing teeth and a jawbone fractured in 2 places, leading to 2 days in the hospital and reconstructive surgery. This attack came only 4 months after a transgender boy named Nex Benedict was similarly assaulted by 3 girls while in the girls' bathroom. Nex died the day after the attack. Both of these transgender students were in the bathroom that matched their biological sex and chromosomes, where anti-transgender bathroom laws would require them to be, and yet they were still attacked and put into the hospital. These attacks prove that transgender students are not safe when they're forced to use bathrooms that don't match their gender identity. And furthermore, there is no evidence that cisgender girls are inherently less safe when sharing a bathroom with a transgender girl. The myth that trans-inclusive bathroom policies pose an increased safety risk has been thoroughly debunked by multiple studies, including a 2018 study by the Williams Institute at UCLA School of Law, which concluded that not only do transgender people using a restroom not pose a safety risk to cisgender people, trans people are far more likely to be the victims of assault, as these attacks show. The study is titled, quote, Gender Identity Non-Discrimination Laws in Public Accommodations, a review of evidence regarding safety and privacy in public restrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms. Please look it up. For Pride Month this year, UN Women, the United Nations entity for gender equality and the empowerment of women, announced that trans rights are not opposed to women's rights, and specifically called out anti-transgender organizations and policies as being against the best interests of women. Last month, 4 of you voted to pass a resolution to ignore federal Title IX guidelines, which protects students from harassment on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, including in school restrooms. This poorly conceived resolution has been coined the Protect Our Girls resolution by local conservatives. But what it really does is allow for state-sanctioned discrimination against transgender students and puts them at further risk of the kind of bullying and assault inflicted upon Cobalt Sovereign and Nex Benedict. Current and former transgender and gender nonconforming students in Sarasota schools have testified in these very chambers that they have been bullied for their gender identity and that they don't feel protected by this board. And when you pass resolutions like this, you empower bullies, and trans students pay the price. As you already know, the new Title IX changes become effective August 1st. Students and parents are informed on the process for reporting Title IX violations to the Federal Department of Education.
Thank you.
August Ray, and then Sebastian Martinez.
Welcome, Mr. Ray.
Hello, my name is August Ray, and I'm a recent graduate of Sarasota High School. For the past several months, I have heard the board speak ad nauseum about rebuilding community trust and increasing board transparency. Yet every single action the board takes breaks the trust of the community. Specifically you, Ms. Rose. Before you were appointed chair, you motioned to fire Dr. Asplin without cause. You voted to bring in Vermillion, despite it still being in its infancy, and you voted for the redistricting of worst county maps. In the meeting where you were appointed as chair, the majority of speakers didn't even want you as chair, yet you were more than willing to take up a position that, judging from earlier today, you clearly weren't qualified for. During your tenure as chair, you have repeatedly cut off public comment, you have refused to send a letter to the governor calling for the removal of your colleague Bridget Ziegler, you have refused to protect public education and instead have voted for the implementation of for-profit charter schools that exist only to siphon funds away from public school, and most recently, you seconded Bridget Ziegler's resolution to break federal law, despite Mr. Duggan's objections, all while representing a district you don't even live in. So just to be clear, during your career as a board member, you have made a routine of ignoring the concerns of your constituents, you have disregarded the advice of the board's legal counsel, and you have voted to hurt public education time and time again, to the point where it feels as if your very presence on this board betrays community trust. And while you can't undo all of the harm you've done to the community, you still have time to actually help foster transparency and healthy communication within our community, and you can start by attending Tiger Bay. In doing so, you provide our community the opportunity to learn about our candidates in a way that allows for us to make an informed decision on who we vote for. So while the best time to start fostering community trust would have been the minute you got elected, the second best time would be now.
Thank you, sir.
Sebastian Martinez, and then Mitzi Escalante.
Welcome, Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Sebastian Martinez, and I'm a proud graduate of Booker High School. And just briefly, I want to congratulate the district on its investments and its time to invest into literacy. It's a great step in the right direction and will hopefully help the board chair read and comprehend her own board policies, which in time can improve board leadership. School Board Policy 222, Section 5, Subsection C. Speakers addressing the school board shall not make remarks which are abusive, threatening, defamatory, obscene, profane, or otherwise of a disorderly nature. But moving on. Them or us? One of the biggest indicators of a campaign focus is where its contributions come from. Ms. Rose, your opponent Liz Barker, has raised $158,059, made up of 1,148 individual grassroots contributions. Rose, you've raised $105,050 with 114 individual contributions. Out of those $105,000, if we exclude contributions from the Prince of Dark Money, your campaign treasurer, Mr. Robinson, developers, real estate contractors, and donations from yourself and your husband, you've only raised $27,525 in grassroots donations, meaning 74% of your campaign contributions come from people who directly benefit and enrich themselves in the form of contracts and developments from the school districts with our taxpayer dollars. So do you serve them or us? Them, the developers, contractors, and dark money donors, or us, students, graduates, parents, and educators. Ms. Rose, I ask this out of genuine concern for my community and our schools. Who directly benefits from you winning your school board race? Them or us? Ms. Rose, your signs are popping up next to developer-backed candidates, Teresa Mass and Mike Moran. Who are you accountable to, them or us? Mike Moran recently came under scrutiny for leading the charge to defund early childhood education. Early education is something anyone can agree is of utmost importance, but you're fine putting your name up next to his. Educational leadership from this board would be calling out the commission, the state legislature, or our federal delegation whenever any decision on education has a negative impact on our schools or our kids, regardless if you have dinner with them at political donor events or not. Ms. Rose, you fired Dr. Asplin, one of the key people responsible for the raise in test scores, which you try and trade credit for. Voted to bring 3-month-old Vermilion in, voted to redistrict for worse maps than we already have, which for somebody who's allegedly data-driven makes no sense. Voted to put the free and reduced lunch meals of our kids at risk by promising to violate federal law, and also support deleting the Department of Education, which provides protection for the ESC kids you say you care about. And on top of that, you shut down speakers, don't listen to your community, and have yet to confirm publicly debating your opponent, Liz Barker, at Tiger Bay. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, and I'm just listing your record and actions, which is why I believe our community deserves an answer when you only have 114 individual supporters donating, and 74% of your campaign is funded by developers, contractors, dark money PACs, and yourself. Who do you serve, them or us? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mitzi Escalante.
I think she left.
All right, thank you. And then we have Bill Hayes. I see you, sir. And then after that will be Richard Canarelli.
Welcome, Mr. Hayes.
I'm Bill Hayes, resident of Sarasota County, and I'm back again to show my opposition to the voucher programs. I think taking public dollars and transferring to private is not acceptable. In my opinion, it's just still downright stealing of our county money. And I can't seem to find any place on how the school board has come up with ways to make up for the dollars that have been taken away. Each and every person up there should be personally offended that the state is taking dollars away from your ability to govern the school board. And it's making it difficult for you to do your job in which you were elected. Specifically, elected by the people of Sarasota County. That's where I'm going with that. But anyway, can you just please make this information available to all the taxpayers? We're interested.
Thank you.
Richard Canarelli, and then Xander Moritz.
Welcome, Mr. Cantarelli.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Richard Canarelli. As I was sitting here in the audience and I listened to the first couple of speakers, I was reminded of the two occasions when I attended a board meeting where the speaker allowed board member Tom Edwards to be personally vilified because of his sexual orientation. In those cases, and again in this case, the chair did nothing. Please note that when comments were made about Ms. Ziegler's activities, they were not because of her sexual orientation. And out of respect for Ms. Ziegler, I will not bring that up again, but I do want to point out the difference. It appears that a double standard is again in practice. But having said that, I will proceed with my original presentation. With the closing of the school year and only 1 or 2 board sessions remaining, I hope that going forward, the board will abandon its participation in the culture wars that characterize many of the meetings and do what is best in the interest of the students and residents of Sarasota County, instead of pursuing the agenda of Governor DeSantis. By the way, I applaud the governor's making more money available for teachers' salaries, but I find it quite interesting that this raise always occurs around election time. I have attended and spoke at several meetings and observed good resolutions rejected and bad resolutions approved. For example, Tom Edwards' resolution regarding treating all students equally was soundly defeated, and the resolution to reject the Title IX amendment was approved, a particular action that could result in the loss of much-needed funding to the district. Going forward, there's still an opportunity to take some positive action. 1, expand and improve at no cost the preschool program to make it acceptable to students at all levels, regardless of income. Support public education and withdraw support for for-profit education. In the educational sense of the word, I consider this a crime against humanity. institute a process for accountability on how taxpayer funds are being used to support religious schools and at home schools. We need to know what is being taught. This is public money, taxpayer money. The same accountability needs to be applied to them as applied to the school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Xander Moritz, and then Julie London.
Madam Chair, on June 8th, you submitted an opinion piece to the Herald Tribune titled, "Tough Decisions, Great Leadership Have Put Sarasota School District on the Right Path." That title would lead one to believe that you were about to write about Terry Connor and the great leadership he has demonstrated and the tough decisions he has made since becoming our district superintendent, but instead you spent 815 words taking credit for the work primarily done by a man that you fired. So it's basically like you watched someone else work to loosen a pickle jar until it was almost open, then you grabbed the pickle jar, popped it open, shoved the person who did all the work down a cliff, and then said, "Hey, press, come here, look, I opened the pickle jar." So that sucks. I thought I was confused, but then I immediately saw several other people submitted opinion pieces directly calling you out for lying, and I realized that I wasn't the one who needed a reality check. So let's begin. To clarify, bad decisions are not tough decisions, and being in a leadership position does not mean that you possess great leadership. Tough decisions look like Robin and Tim voting to reject the anti-black curriculum firm Vermillion from coming into our school district, despite Bridget, who is the current chair, wanting them to vote in favor. If it had not been for their great leadership, Sarasota students would be learning that slavery benefited black people. You made a bad decision and showed no leadership when you voted to let Vermillion into the district. You made a bad decision and you showed no leadership when you lied to the community about your intentions regarding our superintendent and then fired a man that 90% of this community supported. You made a bad decision and you showed no leadership when you spent $40,000 on unnecessary redistricting that Tom Edwards and Bridget Ziegler were able to agree was unnecessary. If you have Bridget Ziegler and Tom Edwards agreeing on something, that should make you stop and think. But you don't do that. So let's be for real, Karen. You do not show great leadership when you silence speakers when they critique you. You do not show great leadership when you support resolutions that the district lawyer tells you are financially and legally irresponsible. You do not show great leadership when you make your constituents pay for politically motivated redistricting. You do not show great leadership when you raise more money from developers than from concerned citizen members. You do not show great leadership when you ignore students who come here to speak every single meeting because they are not old enough to vote, but they still deserve and need to be listened to by you. That's not great leadership. Those aren't tough decisions. You do not show great leadership, and you do not make tough decisions because you're not a great leader. You're not even a leader. You're just our board chair, and we had no say in that. So I'm thrilled that there's an election on August 20th in which we can all vote with the students who can't in mind.
Thank you very much.
Julie London, and then John Wilson.
I feel so honored to follow Xander. I want to say hi to all our friends watching at home, across the country, and abroad. In 2014, a sixth grader at Pineview was bullied because she was different. Kids often will target those who aren't the same as them. The mom went to the principal who said, "Things like that don't happen at Pineview." When the mom produced a screenshot of these bullies telling her child to kill yourself off of social media, the principal wouldn't look at it. They said it didn't happen during school hours. This girl who I called Little Petunia was my neighbor. She was the most sweet, loving girl who had a way with all animals. Because she was on the spectrum, she didn't understand girls telling her to kill herself, so she was suicidal and began self-harming. The mom had been working with her daughter diligently all her life. She had no choice but to pull her from Pineview. I did tell her about you, Tim, and she said she loves you. So thank you for wanting to fight against bullies. In 2019, she had mean girls bullying her at Riverview, at school, and via Snapchat. As a result of those bullies, the girl started having seizures. She begged her mom not to report it because she said it would only get worse. In honor of the kids who bravely tell their stories here, and Little Petunia, I hope Tim and Tom can lead a workshop on solutions to social media bullying. One answer can be automatic suspension if a kid is found to be bullying based on the same laws as workplace harassment, gender, race, religion, maybe a warning for lighter bullying. To make this work, though, kids have to be incentivized to anonymously be able to rat out the bully. If the bully doesn't know who reported them, then the target is a little safer. An example can even be an incentive. If they see something, say something numerous times, I'll donate an iPhone. I'd like to see Sarasota be the blueprint in America's schools for making every student feel safe every day. Since we have 3 minutes, the literacy agenda. Are for-profit charter schools going to pay back the public school system for improved literacy plans? We're not funding a for-profit charter school with the literacy. I hope not anyway. So I'd like that clarified. And I was wondering if I heard right that our superintendent attended the Leadership Institute. So just would like some clarification on that. And finally, I'm looking forward to Liz Barker's editorial in the Sarasota Herald Tribune. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Wilson, and then Sandy Armstrong.
Welcome, Mr. Wilson.
First thing I'd like to address is the money that your literacy program is going to be out of I read a thing that it's going to be out of the referendum money. You know, when I see that, I think, okay, today I'm going to go buy this car on a job I might have in 6 months to pay for it. I don't think that's a great idea. And everybody here is worried about money, reading scores, everything. No one's worried about that. I think if you want to put something, let's get some solid money out here for the reading. I'm glad you're getting rid of reading recovery because that was a joke, wasted money. But let's get solid money, and then let's pay for some of the other things that we can afford to lose, because we can't afford to lose reading. You know, I'll tell you what our school district has done in the past. So, you know, you figure I'm going to use Booker High School as an example. In 2015, Booker High School had a 34% proficiency on math. So, and that has an increase. But what the old board did was, let's go ahead and build this brand new millions of dollars worth of art center and get people to transfer in there, and then it'll look as though everything's coming up, but it's not. Everything's not coming up. It's just the graduation rate will start to come up, and it will look as such. The other thing is, then we're going to worry about money. $700,000 was voted on for worthless screens for kids' things. Now, none of these people are educated. They don't know. They haven't followed any of this. None of it. And, you know, it's very disappointing to me. It's very disappointing to me. So I'd like to get some answers on where we're going to use the money to fund the reading program, because if you're going to use it out of the referendum, I don't know, then you better start cutting jobs in order to put the money back into the reading program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy Armstrong, and then Jessica Thomason.
Welcome.
Hello. I thought I wasn't going to be here this week, but had a friend who's sick, so I'm staying a little longer, so I thought I'd come visit you all. In the agenda, we talked about every student supported, and about the bilingual psychologist that's going to be involved in that, and I think that's wonderful. I hope we continue to do that. But we have to remember there are other students who aren't minorities from an ethnic standpoint, but there are black minorities, brown minorities, there are LGBTQ minorities, and I was concerned what happened with Title IX last time. I'm afraid we're really risking. Early on talked about LGBT people. There weren't many of them, and slandered one more time Tom Edwards. Thanks for hanging in there, Tom. Let's think about the Jews. When they were minorities, what happened to them? Think about this little girl the woman just talked about. It breaks my heart. And, when people say, oh, well, some of you have a lot of experience in the schools, you know that sometimes children act out, and maybe it was one of your children. And I wonder if anybody here has just disowned their child and let the rest of us pick up the pieces, because that's what ends up happening. And we know that, in spite of what the first speaker said, we had the Pulse mass murder, mass murder of an LGBTQ place near Orlando. So we find that there are problems, even with the small minority. So I hope we do continue to take all children first. Superintendent, I still want to hear from you on one of your reports. I'll listen on Zoom. What's going on with the group that's going to be meeting with you about information on what we do with African American history? I really am interested in what happens with that. And I hope that even though somebody got mixed up earlier about what a trans male was and a trans female was, I hope at least you all know which is the difference. Because clearly that person that was waxing on didn't know the difference. And one more thing, I want to remind you that in the past year, 45% of LGBTQ young people seriously considered attempting suicide. And yet we found if they have just one adult who's in their corner, that changes all of that. And so let's let our schools have us be more than one adult, and let's have you all support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Thomason, and then Liz Barker.
Good afternoon, Board. I only get to come out here every couple of weeks for 3 minutes, but this is the second week in a row that Karen walked away as soon as it was my turn, and I'm starting to think it's personal. I don't know. But, and I want to clarify, because I know in the past you guys have said, well, you can email us. It's not just here. But the thing is, I've emailed Karen, and she's never emailed me back, ever. So I feel like I can't do that. And then I know that there is supposed to be a debate at Tiger Bay on July 11th, but I'm hearing that she's not signing up for that, so I can't ask questions there either. So I'm not sure. I'm staring at her empty chair right now, and I have questions. And it seems like she's not interested in anyone asking questions. Today, I caught the very end of the workshop, and Tom simply asked if it was true that there is a county commission meeting, a special meeting that Karen would be presenting at, and she immediately shut him down before he could even ask the question. She said it was false, divisive, and misleading. And I'm relieved to hear that she thinks that, because it is. I do think that coming up with an immigration task force, and if you read Sheriff Tom Knight's, go on his website, you'll read all about what it is. Regardless, if this is her approach, why doesn't she just say yeah? Because I have right here an invitation to Chair Rose from April 30th. It says, Dear Chair Rose, the Sarasota County Commission has invited you to participate in a workshop on the impacts of illegal immigration in Sarasota County. We're specifically interested in the cost of illegal immigration to your organization and the other impacts on the taxpayer. This workshop is scheduled for June 21st. Please let us know if you can come. That was April 30th. And now, right now, posted on the County Commission website is the agenda, and you guys are on it. So if she's not speaking, one of you has to be there, I think, because you're on here, online right now. It says Sarasota County, so that's cool. We know where Bridget stands, that's fine. But just, why don't you just say, yeah, we're doing that? Bridget certainly owns it. I don't know if this is like Karen doesn't want to admit it. Maybe I would agree with her. Maybe I don't. Spoiler, I don't. But somebody might, so why not just say, yeah, we're doing it. You guys are an embarrassment. The way that you two, Tim and Robin, don't stand up and say when something's not okay, but if anything comes out of Tom's mouth, you shut it down immediately. You guys, you say that we campaign. We don't have to. All I have to do is tell people to watch these board meetings, and none of them are voting for any of you. Ever. They're all voting for Tom and Liz Barker. All I had to do was get them to pay attention for one meeting. Job's done. It's that easy. Good luck.
Liz Barker, and then Carol Lerner.
Superintendent Connor, board members, good afternoon. I'm Liz Barker, mom of 4 children in Sarasota County Public Schools, former school psychologist, president of the PTO at Lakeview Elementary School, and candidate for school board. I wanted to address something that was said at the last board meeting by Chair Rose. I heard her praise universal vouchers, and I admit I was a little puzzled. Chair Rose, you weren't elected to represent private schools or homeschool co-ops or even the governor. You were elected to represent those of us who choose to send our children to Sarasota County Public Schools. I support every parent's right to make educational decisions for their children, but that doesn't mean that I support using tax dollars to fund every one of those choices, the way the newly expanded voucher program does. I do not support using tax dollars to go to Disney World. I don't support using them to send children to private schools that discriminate against some students and families, but that is exactly what the current universal voucher program does. Some of you may know this about my background, but perhaps many of you don't. I was that student. I was raised in a fundamentalist group that severely limited the education that I received until I finally went to public school as a sophomore in high school. Before I began public school, I learned the earth was only 6,000 years old. I learned that dinosaurs and man lived at the same time. What I did not learn about was the Holocaust at all. My early education failed me utterly. And while that was my parents' choice to make, I would never support using our tax dollars to provide that kind of education to a child. And yet, universal vouchers do. Karen, when will these vouchers go too far, if they haven't already? When will we hear you advocate for public schools? I understand that it takes courage to stand up to a political machine that demands allegiance to a party line, but that's what we need from you. We have an opportunity to put our collective energy and minds together to create public education that meets the needs of our complex and ever-evolving community. But we need leaders who will go to bat for us. We heard your excitement about school choice, but when will you choose us? Our families are here. We are volunteering in your classrooms. We're running your PTOs. We are donating our own hard-earned money to offset the lack of funding to our schools. We are doing our part, and we need you to do yours. Thank you.
Carol Lerner, and then Susan Moss-Lyon.
Good afternoon. I'd like to first recognize Rana Bazzini, who's missing her first school board meeting in 7 years. Now that is real citizenship. It's for a somewhat minor health issue, so I hope we all wish her well. Speaking for Support Our Schools, SOS congratulates Mr. Connor on earning a well-deserved distinguished rating on his evaluation. We are pleased that he is being offered a 5-year contract, so important in achieving his goals outlined in the district's strategic plan. On agenda item 8, which is approval of the K-12 Code of Student Conduct for the 2024 school year, I find it interesting that on page 11, under Title 9 process, it states that school policy is to, quote, recognize the Title IX law under the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, stating it protects people from discrimination based on sex in education programs or activities that receive federal financial assistance, unquote. Doesn't that fly in the face of the stunt that Ms. Ziegler pulled in terms of a resolution passed by the school board majority that puts the district on record for breaking the law? Board, follow district policy. Follow federal law. Furthermore, the Code of Student Conduct highlights the district's vision statement as School Policy 1.10 as, quote, the school district of Sarasota County places learning at the center of its activities to enable all, and I emphasize all, learners to lead productive, responsible, and healthful lives. It's a good statement. In that context, I am alarmed that Sarasota County Commission is holding a workshop this Friday, June 21st, on the, quote, impact of illegal immigration in Sarasota County, unquote, and that the Sarasota School Board is listed on the agenda. Karen Rose received an invitation letter dated April 30th from Commissioner Moran, stating that the commission is specifically interested in the cost of illegal immigration to your organization. This is another dangerous far-right election year stunt by Commissioner Moran, the very commissioner who led the fight to zero out child care subsidies, claiming that child care is, quote, Sarasota socialism, unquote. Do you believe that? Moran is whipping up hatred toward immigrants and their children. If Ms. Rose is not attending the commission meeting, will Ms. Ziegler be there in her place? Will someone be there? In any event, the school board must convey to Mr. Moran, even if no one attends, that our district follows the law guaranteed by the Plyler decision.
Thank you.
Susan Moss-Lyon, and then the final speaker will be Elizabeth Bornstein.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Susan Moss-Lyon, 29-year taxpayer, recently retired 25-year teacher in Sarasota, proud activist, not political activist. I'm speaking for myself and my friends and colleagues that cannot and will not speak for themselves for fear of reprisal. Today I'm addressing item number 9, Student Code of Conduct for 24-25. Specifically on page 29, disruptive incidences, Z1.12, lying and misrepresentation, and page 51 and 61, threats and intimidation, and page 54, harassment definitions. Will this new and improved code of conduct have any teeth? How will it be enforced? Is it enforceable? There has been a code of conduct in place in the past, but it wasn't consistently enforced, and at times wasn't enforceable and followed through on. What use is a code of conduct? What happens to a student, parents that disrupts, lies, threatens, and harasses, isn't held accountable for their actions when making a complaint against a teacher, school board member, or an employee? If I read the code correctly, this student will be made to write an apology. Really? During my tenure, I and many staff members have been investigated based on a story of a student's report. Will the policy of how complaints are handled for the school board change with this new code of conduct? Presently, if a complaint is made about a staff member by a student or parent, it is directed to an investigator at the landings. During the investigation, the staff member is not informed of the nature of the complaint or made known of the complaint. The staff member learns of the complaint, who made the complaint, but the staff member learns of the complaint, but not given the details of the allegation. The student remains in the classroom. The staff member is informed of the nature of the complaint just 24 hours prior to the interview by the investigator. The staff member is the last person asked about the allegation. This is unfair to the staff member and potentially puts the staff member at further risk for further complaints. The angst and worry staff members endure during the investigation process, it can be very long, puts a strain on our teachers and staff. There needs to be a better way to handle these complaints. Perhaps a process like requiring students and parents to speak to the teacher first, or maybe, maybe the principal and get a group together. In this envelope is my personal documentation of a complaint was made against me by a student and their parents. The allegation was based on the words of the student, middle school. It was twisted around by the parents. They did not hold the child accountable for his actions, but instead wanted to make me the fault. Lucky for me, nearly 100 pages of documentation to prove that my allegations and complaints against me were not true. The time and effort the district put into just this one complaint was ridiculous. This family also lodged complaints against several other staff members, my colleagues. All unfounded.
Thank you.
And last speaker is Elizabeth Bornstein.
Welcome, Mrs. Bornstein.
Thank you. Greetings, Board, Superintendent, Board Attorney, Mrs. Tompkins. I'm Elizabeth Bornstein. I'm a parent of a student in the district, a level 2 volunteer, and I said I'd keep coming back, so here I am, right? I'm here to represent my child who's a student, all the students, every student, every day. I wanted to certainly give a shout out for Mr. Connor, his evaluation, his contract, all in support of those being approved. Thank you, Mr. Connor, for doing a yeoman's duty. this year. This has been a tough uphill climb, and you've proven your worth to the parents and the students and the teachers and administrators. You're here. You showed up every day for every student every day. And I was here when you were interviewed. I was here when you were sworn in, and you are the real deal. And thank you for that. And I look forward to future years of your tenure. I saw on a billboard, one of the school billboards, that said, "Life is a math equation. In order to gain the most, you have to know how to convert negatives into positives." He's a positive. You're negative. He's a positive. We're here for every student every day. Your actions are not following what you say. Mrs. Rose, you said, "I want to make it very clear to the community that for me as the board chair, that it's not about the left, it's not about the right, it's about the students." You said this when you made a motion for Mrs. Ziegler to resign for her predatory behavior. I'm just really sad. I'm sad at what's happened to the left and the right on the board. We're the parents. We're here for our students. You also said board decisions are solely based on students, instruction, learning, and supporting students, teachers, and staff. And what we get reminded is about decorum, right? When I was upset because of when I arrived here rushing to get here to represent my child, every student, every day, we got addressed and admonished for decorum because of some citizen harassing representatives in the audience, in the dais. Smoke and mirrors, gaslighting, you're all complicit in weaponizing Sarasota County schools with partisan politics. Thank you so much, Mr. Connor. Thank you for being here and your courage to keep going. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for showing up, for taking the harassment at the workshop. You don't deserve to be treated this way. You represent all students, every student, every day. I can't thank you enough for the good work that is being done. Please, board, restore our trust. I keep asking for this. Restore our trust, our faith in your leadership, and please honor your fiduciary responsibility.
Thank you. That completes public comment. And Superintendent Connor, if you can please address revisions to the agenda after publication.
An addendum was added to item 7, the instructional classified personnel report.
Thank you, sir. Looking at approval of the consent agenda as amended, do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, and looking for any questions or comments. Seeing none, please vote. Yes, no, maybe. It's with my microphone, maybe. Did it work for you?
Did you refresh?
I am refreshing. Okay. That's 4. And the consent agenda as amended passes unanimously. New business, item number 48, Superintendent Connor, if you could please present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 48, tonight we're presenting the Mental Health Assistance Allocation Plan as required by Florida statute. This plan is essential to ensure that we provide adequate mental health support to our students. Each school district must develop and implement a mental health assistance allocation plan, which must be completed and approved by the district school board by August 1st of each calendar year. This plan has been meticulously developed by our great team members with our, in collaboration with our school-based mental health providers, including our psychologists, social workers, homeschool liaisons, and our counselors. In May, we did have a staff participation meeting focus group, which helped identify the need for additional evidence-based practices and resources. So I'm pleased to present our plan for your approval today.
Thank you, sir. And do I have a motion for the mental health assistance allocation plan?
Move approval of the Sarasota County Schools Mental Health Assistant Allocation Plan for the 24-25 school year.
And there's a motion and a second. Mrs. Ziegler, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I know that this conversation comes up quite frequently with the superintendent myself. I know in years past, the conversation around mental health, ensuring that we know that there's obviously a crisis that we're facing all across the country. And I will say that I believe under the leadership that we have with our superintendent and certainly the members of staff, with the parental rights piece at the core focus, I believe, I don't want to say we've come a long way, but I think there's a lot more transparency and understanding from multiple levels. I am supporting this. I understand that a lot of this is based at the state level. I had mentioned this previously, but I think it's important as we move forward to respond to, in fact, the mental health crisis. And that's such a broad statement, and there's so many components to that, that we consistently be mindful about unforeseen consequences. And I know I brought up the book about why I don't even know what it's called, why our children aren't growing up or what have you, and it's an interest, if you haven't read it, it's really interesting. And it's just a different take, and I think as someone who has personally been touched with mental health issues and around our family, so I'm very close, very near and dear to my heart. There was a lot of focus on overcoming the stigma, and I agree with that. I also want to make sure that there's a balance as we approach things, and I think it's important that our children be resilient and they understand life is tough, but there are opportunities to learn and grow and overcome that, and not necessarily look at everything as if something's necessarily quote-unquote wrong with them. And so I just want to highlight that. I am supporting this, but I do want to consistently keep a keen eye on making sure that we balance the scales as we move ahead. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. Seeing no other comments or questions, please vote. And the mental health assistance allocation plan passes unanimously. Looking at item number 49, contract with the Florida Center. Superintendent Connor, please.
Madam Chair, this agenda item is regarding the contract with the Florida Center for Mental Health and Behavioral Services. So actually the next 4 items will be connected to the mental health plan. So we wanted to make sure that we approved the plan first, and then anything that was funded out of that allocation we brought after that approval. So that's what you'll see in the next few items. So the Florida Center is a contract that is integral, as it's required by Florida legislation, and to have a local community provider as a part of the plan. So the funding that comes here, $975,000, will be used to contract for services to provide direct supervisions by licensed Florida Center supervisors. They will meet with each school team at a minimum quarterly to provide updates on any student's progress towards therapy goals that may be employed at that time. Remember, all of this is along with parental consent. So if any child is referred to them, the parent is involved and consents to any intervention that may be provided. So again, they are a provider that is our local community provider as required by statute.
Thank you, Superintendent Connor. Do I have a motion for the contract with the Florida Center?
Move for approval of the contract for mental and behavioral health services between the Florida Center for Early Childhood Incorporated and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida.
There's a motion. Do I have a second? There's a motion and a second. Ms. Marinelli, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a mental health provider, retired from the school district, I've worked with these agencies for many years, and I do share some of the concerns that Mrs. Ziegler said, that we need to teach our children resilience, and to put the label of having mental health issues, I think, is one that we have to be very cautious with. School counselors have been there to help children as well as school psychologists and the social workers with their some of their issues that affect them academically. So I think we need to keep in perspective what the roles of the student services staff is in working with students and parents, but really ours is to help listen, to work with the families and the student and with their teachers, but to teach them resiliency. And I just want to make sure that that's the focus that this district and their excellent staff follows. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marinelli. Mr. Edwards, please.
I'll be brief. The staff regarding making sure our students are ready to learn sometimes includes mental health issues. My observation of the staff, regardless of whatever the issue is, that the holy trinity for parental advisement has always been parent, teacher, student, always. And that involves mental health, always. So never are those services referred without parental consent, ever. So I want to be very clear on that. And the last thing is, I would suggest to the public or anyone sitting on the dais, I've been to all of these organizations. I went to visit them myself. I've met all of the staff there, and I'm very comfortable with student services for having selected those high caliber, high quality support relationships. So, as always, you've got my support.
Seeing no further questions or comments, please vote. And we have a unanimous approval of the contract with the Florida Center. Item number 50, contract with Lightshare Behavioral Wellness and Recovery, Inc. Superintendent Connor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we're bringing this particular agreement to you again as a part of the mental health allocation. This is a renewal. This provides student assistant program specialists at all of our high schools, really to provide that high quality prevention and intervention to support that safe learning environment for all students. If students are asked or referred to this program, again, it does come with parental permission as required for participation, and we partner with the parents and the student in the schools and the community-based agencies that really remove those barriers that impede student success.
Thank you, sir. Do you have a motion?
Move approval of the contract between Lightshare Behavioral Wellness and Recovery Incorporated and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seeing no questions or comments, please vote. And the contract with Lightshare Behavioral Wellness and Recovery, Inc. passes unanimously. Item number 51, agreement between Teen Court of Sarasota. Superintendent Connor, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. Originally did have this one on consent, but because it now is funded partially from our mental health allocation plan for $120,000, we pulled this over to discussion to make sure it was in the proper order. So again, this agreement's designed to create a program that offers really that second chance for students who are showing those at-risk behaviors, whether that be school discipline or even criminal activity. And as said earlier in my presentation, this has a 92% success rate and has been in the district since 1988.
Seeing no questions or comments, please vote.
Madam Chair, we need a motion first.
Motion, please.
Move approval that the agreement between Teen Court of Sarasota, Inc. and the school board be approved as presented.
Second.
Thank you both. There is a motion and a second, and Mr. Enos, please.
Yeah, I worked with them when it was for a very long time. I know that historically that, we also work with the Department of Juvenile Justice, but I can't speak the praises enough about Heather Todd and used to be Katie Self in reference to Teen Court and what they do. And I just wanted to give them a huge shout out because I know that the effectiveness, if you look at the regular judicial back in the day when they had the Scared Straights program, that showed that Scared Straight, 75% of those students reoffended.
And that was, at that time, was supposedly the benchmark, and 75% of those kids reoffended. So when you talk about teen court and a 92% rate, I would even guess that it probably is even higher than that. I mean, it's an excellent program, and we are one of the counties in Florida that it's absolutely has been very successful for our students, because our kids need a second chance, because they're kids. They mess up, they're kids, they need another chance, and this is what the program opportunity gives them. Thank you.
Extraordinary indeed. Ms. Marinelli, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I concur with Mr. Enos. You're not supposed to have favorites, but Teen Court is one of my favorite organizations that we partner with, because you get to hear the stories of from the kids that are in the program, and the first chance, the second chance, sometimes it's the third chance, and like we said, over 92% are successful, and you don't always get that with many of the programs that we partner with. So Teen Court is, I just think, a very unique way to work with our students and adults, and I just always support it. And I know that we've given more money, but that is to provide more services for our students, and especially over the summertime too. So I just appreciate the update, and I definitely support this.
Thank you, Ms. Marinelli. Mr. Edwards, please.
It's not often we all agree, but they are one of my favorites. I'm always there. Heather Todd does a great job. And I point out, it's not just about the students who need second and third chances. They also offer wonderful opportunities for young folks for leadership, whether it be prosecuting or defending. It's a great program that's peer-to-peer with great leadership. So, yes, I will be supporting this.
And seeing no further questions or comments, everyone has voted, and the agreement between Teen Court of Sarasota, Inc. and the Sarasota County School Board passes unanimously. Item number 52, contract with Full Spectrum. Superintendent Connor, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. This item is our last. That is an allocation contract services out of our mental health allocation. It is with Full Spectrum Behavioral Analysis. It is a renewal. Typically, we use staff when we're providing this type of intervention, when we have students who are exhibiting behavioral needs for intervention, but there are times when we have to contract for services, and so Full Spectrum is someone we use, and we are seeing an increased number of cases over the last few years, and so this contract should reach over about 16 of our schools. I do want to point out that this item was funded previously on ESSER funding, but as we sunset that is something that will have to move over to general. It is a necessary support for us. But basically, the scope of services is to collaborate with school-based teams to create our functional behavioral assessments, make sure they're reviewing existing behavior intervention plans, guiding the implementation of those BIPs, and making sure that we're analyzing that behavior to guide recommendations for next steps. So it's a very important piece of the puzzle when we're talking about how we're supporting our students who need those interventions.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion for the contract with Full Spectrum, please?
Move approval of the contract between Full Spectrum Behavioral Analysis, Full Spectrum ABA, Limited Liability Company for the 24-25 school year, and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, and seeing no questions or comments, please vote. And the contract with Full Spectrum passes unanimously. Item number 53, decodable text library. Superintendent Connor, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'm excited to bring this item to you, presenting the approval for the recommended decodable libraries for all of our K-2 classrooms with Flyleaf Publishing. They offer decodable libraries specifically designed to supplement the science of reading practices, which you heard about our plan today at our workshop. We're going to provide these resources in our K-2 classrooms. I bring this to you in full transparency just because it is a high-ticket item in terms of the finance and the impact there. But that will be an integral part of how we provide that complex text and informational text and all of those things as we build the literacy outcomes for our students in K-2.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the selection of supplemental decodable text series be approved as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seeing no questions or comments, please vote. And the decodable text library passes unanimously. Item number 54, contract with Jigsaw Learning, Teachtown. Superintendent Connor, please.
Yeah, I'd like to present this agenda item for approval for a 3-year contract with Jigsaw. This is going to be integral for our access point students. We want to create a common framework for all of our students who are on access points. And so the curriculum and resources, the kits, the guides, the assessments, the piece will provide that framework for our teachers, and we really can help support those students. So I bring this to you at a financial impact of $963,470.27. And it will be paid out of the school improvement grant as well as partially out of the IDEA grant.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion, please?
Move approval of the 3-year contract between Jigsaw Learning LLC, doing business as Teachtown, and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Ms. Marinelli, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will definitely be supporting this, and I just want to thank Dr. Wasserman for all the work and the team for recognizing this, and also I want to mention the behavior plans, the ABAs, because that is so important. All this works with the families also, so they know what's being taught to their child. So I just think listening to today with the whole literacy plan and seeing how ESE, our students, are a part of this. And I like the statement when, all students are gen ed.
Yes.
And some require extra support. So I will most definitely be supporting this, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marinelli. Seeing no further comments or questions, please vote. And the contract with Jigsaw Learning Teachtown passes unanimously. Item number 55, litigation meeting. Superintendent Connor, please.
Through the chair, if you don't mind, I would like to pass it over
Sure.
to our legal counsel to present this item.
Absolutely. Thank
Sure.
you, sir.
The Florida statutes permit litigation strategy sessions to be held in private, so I am requesting that the board authorize a litigation strategy session to be held on July 16th, which is a board meeting date, in the case of Elsa Beal by Craig Beal, personal representative versus School Board of Sarasota County, case number 8-22-CV-02529-JSM-JSS. And again, that's pursuant to Florida Statute 286.011 sub 8.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion?
Move approval of the request to schedule a private meeting concerning settlement negotiation or safety strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. Elsa Beal by Craig Beal, personal representative versus School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, 8-22-CV-02529-JSM-JSS, pursuant to Florida State Statute 286.01, subsection 8, on July 16, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Enos.
Very, very thorough.
And do I have a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seeing no questions or comments, please vote. And approval for the litigation meeting passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 56, the superintendent summative evaluation. Each of my colleagues and myself have completed an evaluation on Superintendent Connor and had a one-on-one with him to go over that, reviewed his self-evaluation and the pages and pages and pages of stellar accomplishments that I couldn't be more excited about. I've said, and I will say it again, the systems that have been put in place, the foundations, the instructional learning, I encourage folks to look at I seriously encourage you to look at the reading presentation today. It covers all of the items that were initiated this year, and the results in raw data make me want to dance on the dais, but I will control myself. It was a pleasure, Superintendent Connor, to give you an outstanding evaluation, and I feel very blessed to have you leading us, and of course, recognizing the work that your staff has done and all of the things that have been implemented, and the teachers in our classroom. We almost had a few tears today referencing what teachers do in classrooms, and we certainly respect that, appreciate, admire it, and I'm sure that I have colleagues that would like to address if you so desire.
Do you want me to make the motion first?
Make the motion first.
I move that the summative evaluation for the superintendent for the 2023-2024 school year, as reviewed and discussed by the school board and superintendent, be approved as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, and Mrs. Ziegler, you are up first.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I find sometimes we live in two different moments, where the workshop, which was extraordinary today and has been all year, and then we have our board meetings, and I understand there are members of the public who are not happy, and some days I just wanting to find how we can bridge that, because there's such tremendous work happening right now. And yeah, it did move us to tears. I tried to, I think staff who has been here for decades are experiencing and seeing that too. And so it's not just fodder for cheerleading, and I think that sometimes happened in years prior. And I think when I look at, so I'll take a step back when it comes to evaluations. I'm somewhat known for being pretty tough on evaluations, but I take them very seriously, and that's our only employee. And that is, as a board member, that is a very pivotal role that we play, that we're entrusted to do from the public. And so, funny fact is, yesterday was 10 years as my swearing in, and my first board meeting was to evaluate Mrs. White, Superintendent White, and I tried to abstain because I didn't think that was right. How do you evaluate somebody you've never worked with? And it's such an important aspect. Can't abstain, I found out at that time, but and moving forward to other superintendents, I tried to highlight the areas of opportunity. I definitely highlighted some areas that were successful, and it was pushed back by members, certain prior board members, that was unfair. And I share that because I take it seriously, and with absolute pride, it gave me to go through this evaluation after looking at what's transpired this year. And knowing how tough I am, I think I told you, I was really trying to see, am I being overly generous? And it's just a testament to how hard you have worked, the incredible leadership that you have exuded in a calm and steady manner, which is so pivotal in education, with the emotions that are real, that come forward from internally and externally. You have built a team. I can't speak. I'm speechless, and my family hears this pretty regularly, but I come home and I cannot praise this enough about what's happening. And I think it really is bridging an element that we have, as mentioned today, fantastic educators and teachers. We just didn't have systems in place to really support continued and sustainable growth. And so there was a disconnect, and sometimes at the end of the year you'd have great presentations, but then sometimes our data would reflect something very different. And I think that's why today was just such a beautiful moment, where it highlighted we're moving forward, we have that connectivity. Mrs. O'Day, I can't stress enough how much you just bring the energy in, and it is, like I think Ms. mentioned, she runs through walls. And I appreciate that, because the work that we have to do is so critical, and that time is of the essence. And I know that, as is demonstrated today and in prior workshops, the team leaned in, and I think everyone was really desiring that. But that would not have happened without your leadership. And so I am incredibly optimistic. As I've mentioned before, I've never felt better about the position of this district, and very appreciate your tenacity and your focus and your leadership, and I look forward to an extending multiple years in the future as you lead this district to great success. So I really appreciate everything you've done.
And Ms. Marinelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll echo what Mrs. Ziegler said. I take evaluations very seriously, and I struggled only because I marked everything so high that I went back and reviewed and thought, well, do I need to change that? And I just couldn't. Because what you've accomplished in this year, and I have stated before, I have worked with some great, wonderful superintendents and staff. I was very lucky for 35 years. But I haven't really seen anything like today's presentation and your leadership bringing it all together. And I think that was a common theme, that to really see it all brought together for all students. And, you know, a great leader has the structure and the vision and hires the people to do that, and then you get out of the way so the teachers can do what they do, because when they shut their door, that's where the learning happens. So they've done a tremendous job. You can't say enough about our teachers. They're so excellent, but it's the leadership, so thank you. And you deserved every one of my checks, so thank you.
Mr. Enos, please.
You know, I've done hundreds and hundreds of evaluations. And what impressed, when I looked at the document, if you look at all the supporting attachments, because ultimately, you know, you go through the year and you don't remember everything that's happened, because you're like, oh, I remember, well, we did that, or we remember this, or you remember the last couple of things. You try to take notes throughout the year, you put them in the systems. But when you look at everything between the code of conduct and then and you look at the strategic plan and you look at all the ESC changes that are made, and then you start looking about personnel and you bring in your team, and then you start looking at all this stuff, and as you start looking at all the attachments, it's like the amount of work that you did. I thought it was okay. I thought it was all right. I know, second time I told the joke, ladies. I said it this morning. But no, at the end, it was very, very impressive, and I could just tell you is, you know, when you were able to have all that documentation, it just wasn't by trying to remember things and saying, oh my goodness, well, what? It was, I mean, the amount of work truly that you've done in the last year in order to do, and I know that Ms. Rose talks about systems and being able to bring those systems back into line and putting that consistency and to get everybody on the same page. It's just like we talked about this morning. When everybody's rowing in the same direction, you make change, you make progress, and obviously when you look at the third grade reading, you look at some of the other results, you still look into here. I saw our math one. I mean, you start looking across it. Ultimately, by changing that process, you look at the Leadership Institute, the literacy, you know, reading is everything, right? And when you start looking at those things, you did, I mean, it really is an exceptional job. So I'm looking forward to next year you doubling it. So thank you.
Mr. Edwards, please.
What they said. I think that for me, 56 of 57 agenda items go hand in hand. It's a pleasure for me to want to extend a 5-year contract for all of our one-on-one conversations that have demonstrated your expertise and your demeanor more than anything else. And I shouldn't say more than anything else, but it goes hand in hand. You never ruffle, you stay focused, you drive ahead, and in an environment such as we're in, it's a welcome relief. It's an oasis, quite frankly, for someone like myself who really just wants to get here and do a good job. So, and again, I think it was said, Rachel Day goes through walls. She does it in high heels. Always. She looks great. She's got, and the team, what systems, what process, and the way that it was woven together, which is a challenge. I don't make light of the fact, and I know it was said, but to manage it through the budget. A lot of that was experimental work that was out there that all had to be figured out what's working and how do we afford it. So that was a challenge in all of the new programming that had to be implemented all at the same time, and it was done with expertise, grace, leadership, and for me, I'm thrilled. I'm looking forward to next year. Nothing but up, and can't wait for you to be here for the next 5 years.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. We have a motion and a second, and please vote for Superintendent Connor's summative evaluation. And the motion to approve Superintendent Connor's evaluation passes unanimously. I once again want to remind everyone the reading initiative. There's ladies dressed in red by design today that presented all of the pieces that have occurred this year, the initiatives, and reflected on the response in our classrooms with our teachers. And again, I strongly encourage you to look at that. It's just totally, completely impressive, and I thank you again. Moving on to Superintendent Connor's employment contract. Do I have a motion?
I move that the employment contract for the superintendent be approved as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, and I'm going to ask legal counsel, Mr. Duggan, to walk through the process that he and I instituted to bring this contract forth.
So, so we, you may recall at the last meeting, there was some discussion to bring this forward. So we did. We met right away, and as you know, I spoke with each of you, and I won't get into the details of our, private conversations, but I will say that they were all positive. Obviously, you all can't speak with one another, so you designated the board chair to serve in that role. So I work with the board chair. We engaged Mr. Connor and his team. They brought reasonable things. I think it was a very pleasant, negotiation that we did, that we accomplished in just a couple days, really. And we were able to hash out, the couple issues. And I think that it's a great contract for our community. With the 5 years, it brings stability to this organization. I think it is in line and fair for Mr. Connor for the great job he does, and I think it is, make sure that the taxpayers are looked after as part of that as well. So I think it's a fair contract for both sides, is what we brought back for you all to consider.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duggan. I appreciated your guidance through this process, and want to note that. Mrs. Ziegler, please.
I just wanted to state, just hinging off what we just talked about, but the exceptional leadership, far exceeding expectations, is something that is a breath of fresh air, and also just leaves us all very optimistic about the future. So being able to have that stability and that continuation is something I know I personally am very happy to see, but I believe that was shared across the board. So thank you to Mr. Duggan for assisting, and also Chair Rose for getting it done.
Thank you. Ms. Marinelli, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I agree with what Mrs. Ziegler said, and thank you to our attorney and Madam Chair. And I have to say, I'm so glad that we're doing this and for the stability, and I really enjoy coming here for our one-on-ones. And sometimes my husband's like, well, you got to do this, Bella. And I said, no, I got to be there at 10 o'clock because I look forward to, and I like seeing staff, and really to see over this past year how everybody has evolved, and you can tell any kind of tension that was there before. Everybody's working very well together. It's even though you work so hard, everyone's pretty happy. So that's a big testament. So thank you. So I'm thrilled to offer it for 5 years. So congratulations.
Anyone else? Seeing no further comments, please vote, and as we do so, I just have one last piece. We need to grab onto you so no one else does. Bottom line, please vote. And the Superintendent Connor's employment contract passes unanimously. And
He loves it.
happy days.
So, Madam Chair, just if I have a moment.
Please.
I didn't really prepare anything, so I'm really speaking off the cuff, but I have to first thank all 5 of you. You've made this job very, very seamless for me to come in. And, you know, there was a lot of people say, Sarasota? Are you sure you want to go to Sarasota? And maybe just because I didn't know much about Sarasota, that, you know, that worked out great, right? But I've got to tell you, I've been my expectations are just so blown out of the water. Working with each one of you has been a complete joy. Our one-on-one conversations where we can be vulnerable, we can talk, we can get things done, and then we come in here and we execute. So first off, I say thank you to this board, and I truly mean that. But more importantly, I got to thank my wife and my family. Because, Mr. Edwards, you say you're so calm and collective. I get to go home and vent to my wife of all the things that happen, right? She's my partner in crime. She knows this work. She's an educator. So it's good to have somebody to bounce that off. So I thank her so much. And, of course, my kids, who I've moved twice now. But this is where we want to be. We want to stay here for the duration. This contract puts my youngest through his senior year. So not only do I'm glad that I have 5 years, but the stability personally and the stability for this community is, I think, tremendous. And then most importantly here in this room, and not everybody's representative, but it is this team. Those that I've been able to bring along, but those who have been here for the duration, who have helped transition me here, who have seamlessly worked together. Change has been hard. It's difficult. No matter where you're at. I can't believe it's already been a year. I really can't. I feel like I just started. We have accomplished a lot, and I say we for sure, and that list of accomplishments and what that evidence that I provided in my evaluation, that was done by the people that are out here. And the people who are in our schools, our administrators, our teachers, all the way down in every aspect at every level. And I just thank you for embracing me. This community has embraced me. I thank you for that. I hope we continue to have that partnership. Looking forward to the future of what this district can be and where we will go. We're, just like the Carpenters say, we have only just begun. And I'm so thankful for everybody, and I'm looking forward to 5 years and maybe even more than that eventually. So thank you so much.
Okay. Mrs. Ziegler.
I'm leaving on a high note, so I was going to address some things, but I'm not going to. But in the future, I think maybe I want to make sure that we do have the opportunity to myth bust, because there's information out there that's not accurate. I think they're delivered in talking points, and I think it's owed to the community that they get clarified. But I wanted I want to clarify and highlight some things. The Sarasota County Schools does a Summer Leadership Institute, not affiliated with the Leadership Institute. Just wanted to make sure that was clear. And it was really, I appreciate the superintendent making, extending the invitation to the board. There was a great speaker, and something I think that you just highlighted perfectly is, in your leadership role, I never hear you say I, like ever. It is always about the team that executes on it, and I want to underscore that, because I think that's really important. I think that's really important, and I think that it really, I see people out there that are working their rear ends off with you because they see this vision, and it makes a big difference to work with a strong leader. So I wanted to highlight that, and I think a lot of the information that was provided during the opening session was exciting. In addition to the preliminary numbers, I am incredibly excited. And once they're posted, there are areas that I didn't ever think we would be able to move, particularly the lower quartile, and the numbers are they're tremendous. There's an element of, you hear every student every day, or the A rating sometimes waters down what's really happening. And there are students in our school district for years that sometimes have slipped through the cracks just because we had that designation. And I believe that the superintendent coming in and their team, and I think there are certainly members that have been here and they recognize that opportunity to tap into those students and see them accelerate, because every child has the opportunity and ability to really be successful, and I think that's what those numbers show. And I think what was just demonstrated today, again, it's just tremendous, and it's a testament to the willingness and the boldness and the unstoppable effort that y'all have done. But you're seeing numbers that I feel like for a while, years ago, was almost as if it couldn't be done. And I am so glad that you guys are able to illustrate that was not absolutely the case, and that every child and every student is worth fighting for, and we're going to keep focusing and narrowing on them to see them successful. And so I just wanted to highlight the Summer Leadership Institute, not the Leadership Institute. And again, congratulate everyone. I hope you guys have some time to break and rest. But you guys have delivered a tremendous feat this year. So again, thank you so much.
Let's see, Ms. Marinelli, please.
I feel like this is the most I've talked at a board meeting, but I wanted to thank you, Superintendent Connor, for inviting me. And I brought the book because I did take it home, and I was reading all the sessions and how everything was mapped out and sequential, and what your message to everybody there and our speaker, Kyle McDowell, when he states there is no I in we. And there is no I in the board. We all have to work together. And I think that's something that you have done. And I wrote out something. So if you, and this is truly, I want to thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me talk this much. And I would again like to congratulate all teachers across the district, Superintendent Connor and your staff, for improving student reading scores, and for our teachers that just made that happen. And it was a team effort that made it happen. And to those who might think otherwise, my father would always say, people will forgive you for everything but your success. And you are all so successful. And don't let anybody else get in your head that things aren't going well and that you haven't given 100% plus more, and our teachers also. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I can't wait to see what everybody does next year and the next 5 years.
No pressure.
Mr. Edwards, please.
Thank you. I have just a couple of quick comments. I'm sorry Bill Sadlow left, because one of the things that I so love about the Boys and Girls Club, and I don't know, and I don't think you and I have had this conversation, but when I go there, they had Naviance, which was the program before Schoolings. They also had iReady. So I want to talk about that literacy program and see if we can't manage that, make sure they have school links, because they can't be a better after-school program. And while we're working so hard with literacy, Let's make sure that our young people have good quality after-school programming, and you and I can talk about a couple of other ideas, but I'd love to see those programs continue on. And I want to also just keep it on a high note. I never thought we weren't ever going to get there. I never did. That's why I show up every day. That's why I work as hard as I do, because you all are the ingredients that make that happen. And it's the leadership that sewed it all together and put us in that right direction. So we're in a magic moment. Let's seize it. Let's feel good about it and enjoy the rest of the summer.
And Mr. Enos, you're up. Please.
Well, thank you again, Superintendent Connor and his staff. I mean, incredible job, and what an unbelievable year. Just going to talk about, again, we have it coming up at the workshop, just for the citizens of the county, of being in the EOC for probably 22 years. If you looked at the rain, I made a comment this morning about that the Sarasota High School parking lot was literally about 4 feet underwater. They are still saying that, predicting that this could be one of the worst hurricane seasons we've ever had. So with that, knock on wood, please have some type of a plan. I know that the board is hard at work, as well as the superintendent of staff and Mr. Kemp, Dr. Kemp, in reference to making sure that we're going to do everything possible to make sure that our citizens are safe as it comes into this hurricane season, as that I know that the citizens of this county are dependent upon the shelters. So please, if you don't have a plan, because it looked like there were people that didn't have a plan and we just got 12 inches of rain, from talking to my fellow law enforcement brothers and sisters, please have some type of plan as we move forward. In that, I just have some type of a bad feeling about this season that we have. We've been protected here. We haven't had a direct hit since 1969, which was Camille. A lot of them have gone in through Charlotte Harbor, and there's a lot of rumors about being protected. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're on top of everything, and that's one of the commitments about safety. That's for everybody. So have a plan as it comes forward, and we'll make sure that we have more information when it comes up in the July workshop. And thanks to the school police department and Chief Lorenz in reference to having a great year this year, and looking forward to moving forward next year and working with the police department as they have a transition taking place. Again, in that making sure that every single kid is safe every day. House Bill 1473, as I mentioned also this morning, with the increase in the budget, is going to be for compliance, as well as it's going to be take a lot of steps further in making sure that the kids are safe while they're on campus, based on the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission and its implementations. So again, everybody have a safe summer, especially in traveling, and I just say, go Knowles.
Thank you, Mr. Enos. I'll end on a positive note, but before I do that, the Sarasota County did invite our school system to I believe it was a workshop on immigration. I did decline that. In that, for obvious reasons, relative to state and federal statutes, laws. And moving on the positive note, if you haven't heard, our governor has allotted $1.25 billion for teacher salary raises. I'm excited on where we can go with that, and love thinking about getting those funds in the hands of our teachers. So thank you all, and the next work session is scheduled for Tuesday, July 16th, followed by a 6:00 p.m. board meeting. Thank you all. We are adjourned. Happy summer.